Welcome to a video on my channel. Today I want to take a moment to show you exactly how to properly sharpen a chainsaw, specifically the chain itself, which is the part that actually does the cutting. I'll explain how the sharpening process works, give you some helpful background information, and walk you through the steps. For this demonstration, I'm using a Güde chainsaw. GKS 108 device here, and I have two different grinding wheels. I'll link everything. It all costs around, I'd say, 30 euros. You really don't need to spend more. With this explanation here, you'll get your chains perfectly sharp. Have fun. So let's start with an explanation of the device. Down here, as you can see, we have the degree setting available. I personally use 30 degrees for this, which works well for me. You can sharpen the chains from 25 to 35 degrees. But I can really only recommend using 30 degrees from my experience. Down here, I can loosen this and then switch sides. Once at 30 degrees from the left and once at 30 degrees from the right. So I'm now carefully setting it back to 30 degrees for accuracy. Next, we move on to the tensioner, where we can gently tension the chain and then push it forward. Here we have our adjustment mechanism. I'll explain that in more detail in a moment once the chain is on. And here, I can still fine-tune the adjustment mechanism. Okay, then I'll put the chain in. As you can see, the chain is just laid on here like this. And then I have my spacer here. I can now set it correctly and then keep pushing it forward and stop behind a link like that, so I don't have to measure it every time. And then I just fasten it here with the quick release tensioner. Then I can sharpen my chain and I bring it down. As you can already see it there. So there. Then I lift it up, loosen it again, move to the next tooth, because that's exactly the other side, which we have to do later on the second pass. And now here's the tooth again that I want to sharpen. Then pull it back again to my stop and tension it again. After that, oh, now I've gone and done something wrong. What I'm saying is nonsense. So this is my tooth after all. I usually have them, wait a minute, how was it here? I usually have them alternating. Oh, that was the end of the chain because there are two teeth on one side here. That's why it happened. Okay, so let's start over. So I've sharpened this one, then comes the tooth from the other side, and then comes the tooth that I want to sharpen again. Then the quick release is tightened again, and then I can go down with my grinding wheel and then sharpen this tooth. That's the principle. Back here, as I said, is the adjustment screw. I can do some fine tuning here. You'll see that. And yeah, that's it for now. On top, I also have a limiter. I'll show you that now, one moment. It's up here. With this, I can set how deep I go when sharpening, so I have the same depth across the whole chain. That's what it's for. Yeah, you can already see roughly how deep you need to go. Let's take a closer look. After we've sharpened the chain all the way around, we naturally have to turn it 180 degrees. Yes, and every second or third time, you naturally have to shorten the surface of this depth limiter a bit. You can do that with a grinder, but only about 1 millimeter at a time, not too much at once. Yes, okay, now we're going to turn the chain. Namely, the angle in the other direction. As a helpful tip, I can also suggest that you mark the starting points on both the left and right sides with a specific color, so that you know exactly where you started from. This way, it becomes much easier to keep track of your progress. So, and the only difference now is this particular step, which is what sets it apart from before. I just have to, after I've finished sharpening the yellow side, let's say, simply turn it here, set it back to 30 degrees, and then it's the red side's turn. Yes, that means in this case, I would loosen it here again, just as before. I tighten it again, and then go back down with my grinding wheel, and I would sharpen the right side, in this case the red side. That's actually all there is to it. It's also important that you see down here. Here is the edge where the grinding wheel eventually touches down. That's what you set at the very top of the device right here, as you can see, although it's a bit hard to see with this particular camera angle since we're looking from the side, but it's definitely at the top. So you don't want to go too far down here because you really don't need to do that. You basically only have to sharpen this specific edge right here, just this part. Okay, now I'll go ahead and put in an old chain, and then we'll take a closer look at the whole thing together so you can see exactly how it all works. Now I've put the old chain in. It's important to mention that you should be careful not to grind off too much here. You should really only set it to 2 or 3/10 unless you have really big nicks in it because you hit a stone, then you'll obviously have to take off more. Then you'll have to take off millimeters if necessary. That's just how it is. But as I said, that's not usually needed. The chain will last longer that way. Now, let's get started. Oh, one more thing about the durability of the chain. Yes, as I mentioned, I already said it at the beginning. The chain has a relatively, or rather, the material has a very high carbon content. 0.8% carbon, which is very, very high. So, and the material then has a hardened structure. And this hardened structure, well, comes from the fact that the carbon is bound in the structure by quenching. In the lattice, so to speak. So, and now you go and apply incredible pressure with a lot of heat to the link, pressing down, and that makes it incredibly hot. And because of that, the carbon can basically escape from the structure again, and then the steel here is no longer hard, but soft. Yes, that's the reason. That's why you actually have to grind very slowly. That means you just touch it briefly so that it definitely doesn't get too hot. Then the chain will last an incredibly long time. Then you'll have a super sharp chain. If you don't hit a stone, you can saw with it forever. It's different than when you take it somewhere where they're ground industrially, they go full into the material, everything gets hot. That's the reason why they don't last nearly as long as this one here. Okay, then I'll get started. Let's turn the machine on. Go briefly into the material. So that it doesn't get too hot here. Always briefly, you have to be patient. And that's how you do one link after another. I'm going to switch to another camera angle now so you can see how the grinding works because you can't see it that well from up here. One moment. So the camera position has been changed. Now we continue. Now you can see it better. Just briefly in. Wait a bit again. So once more, let's try that again. Oh great, wonderfully sharp. So here we go. Open. Pull one forward, that's from the other side, and then comes this one. What we want to sharpen now, yeah, this link, tighten it again. Machine on. Done. That's how the whole principle works. And so you just keep doing that. Loosen. Tighten. Sharpen. Pull forward, tighten, sharpen. That's the principle. Once you know how it's done, it's totally easy. It's always the most fun when you finally get to try out the chain on the saw for the very first time, isn't it? I mean, I was totally thrilled. And the whole thing, let's say for around 30 euros with a second grinding wheel included, And it's actually quite simple. You don't need to buy anything expensive. You just have to do it right. I hope I was able to help you out. You liked my video, then please give a thumbs up, subscribe to me, and check out my other videos too. Maybe there's something in there for you. And yeah, then I'd say, until next time, bye.